The Buffalo Bills have decided to fire their head coach, Sean McDermott, and promote, not only retain their GM, Brandon Beane, but promote him to head of football operations. And here's the thing that you learn something new every single day, Brandon, right? You know, like
Yes.
We are just trying to figure it out and be like, wow, the league just presents so many nuances.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that Sean McDermott was an admiral. So in this statement that the Bills released about the firing of Sean McDermott, Sean has done an admiral job.
Well, maybe that's a direct quote, though. Maybe whoever typed this up had to do the quote verbatim. Maybe whoever delivered this quote misspoke, but they're like, I can't.
It's coming from the ownership, right?
Compromise my journalistic integrity. I got to write admiral.
Because here we go. Said owner Terry Bagula, Sean has done an admirable job of leading our football team for the past 9 seasons. And that's the thing, too. Even if he used the right word, admirable, right? That's still like that is not that. He did admirable.
He did all right.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I did not know that there was a difference between those two words. So I could own the Bills. I could easily own the Buffalo Bills.
You know what, buddy? Honestly, I think so. And listen, we'll talk about these divisional round games. From an objective point of view, I understand them wanting to move on from McDermott, right? Of being like, okay, sure, you're kind of having this, I don't want to say complacency, but it seems like you're plateauing. You're not able to get over the hump to get to the Super Bowl. I get that. But in my humble opinion, to keep, not only retain the GM, but then promote him, the guy who constructed the roster. And Brandon, you and I have been talking about this for weeks, that this is probably the worst iteration of the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs that we've seen in a couple of seasons, right? Between their run defense, right? Their lack of wide receivers, probably not the best version of them. And the fact they still were able to win a playoff game. And on top of that, going to overtime, even though they had a cajillion turnovers. Yeah, this one doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me in terms of just the structure that they're maintaining in Buffalo.
If they're promoting Brandon Beane to president of football operations, does that mean they're going to be hiring a general manager, or is he just going to do?
I don't know if he's doing
both jobs. Because
he's leading the search for the new head coach.
Yeah, to be like to play, I guess, I don't know, devil's advocate. If he's moving into that role, then let's just assume you recognize he does some things very well for your organization. But you also need a new general manager and head coach as you make this change. And maybe a new general manager can do the thing you really want your GM to do and spearhead a good team of scouts and talent evaluators to draft correctly, to really give your team a chance to succeed. So maybe that's in the works there. I don't know. Yeah. The Bills, though, kind of feel like the type of team that would just elevate him to that new role and then just leave the GM spot vacant, right? But hopefully for Bills fans, this firing means they'll bring in a new head coach and a new GM and then get some fresh eyes in that talent evaluation process, the approach to free agency, because one thing that's hurt Buffalo is all the misses at wide receiver or what lack thereof. I think part of their issues this season have been injury related, and that's affected many teams. But also this is in line with John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin in terms of what I think the fan perspective is here, and that's thank you for your service, head coach.
Yeah.
We appreciated it, but it's time for us to move on, right? Like I think fans they've been toying with this idea for a couple years. A couple, of my mods here are big Bills fans and in the Discord. So like we get a lot of Bills talk there, and they've had issues with McDermott for a while. And it's not that he's a bad head coach. It's just that this team has not been able to get to the Super Bowl, and they have Josh Allen. And when you do that over and over again, something's got to change. This is a brutal It was a brutal loss. It was the toughest loss this weekend for any team. The way the Bills lost, I think what it meant to the Bills players losing that game, it was tough. I've never seen a team so down after a loss the way I saw like the Bills in their locker room. So it's tough because Sean McDermott, he did a hell of a job. He came in and he took the Bills to the wild card round. First year.
Yep.
They hadn't been to the playoffs since 1999 before Sean McDermott came in. They draft Josh Allen. I think maybe the best thing Sean McDermott did was stay patient with Josh Allen early in his career, where he was kind of volatile, where after one and a half seasons, everybody was ready to write him off. They gave him time to develop and marinate, turned him into a contender. That is a brutal spot to be in, where you're very good at your job, but you are not good enough to get your team to the Super Bowl. Like, that's almost like a curse in and of its admirable self.
Nailed it. You crushed it. And end quote. Nailed the talk.
Shut up.
Yeah. And again, like, that's what I said, right? Like, I understand from the viewpoint of like, all right, it got old. We have seen this with other teams, right? Where they have done, we fire our head coach, we keep our GM, or we keep our head coach and we, vice versa. But this just feels like there were specific points on the roster that were not strong this year, right? Yeah. Getting the deal done with James Cook, that aged very well, right?
Yes.
Excellent job. They had the number one rushing attack in the NFL. Excellent job. And even if you look at Saturday's game, right? I mean, the amount of turnovers that they have, Josh Allen should take a lot of responsibility for that loss, right?
Yes.
At the same time, one of the reasons why you're in this position is because of Josh Allen, because you also look at some of the weak points of the roster, whether it's the run defense, whether it's at wide receiver. You mentioned missing on some wide receivers, though I will say the signing of Brandon Cooks has worked out pretty well, except for that one lack of catch. But yeah, it just, if they
even
go and
bringing
get
Trey White back was a really smart decision for him. Sure. I don't think Bean's the worst GM out there. I think it's easy to point your finger when you have a team as good as the Bills every year and they just can't get there. And you're asking really tough questions. And it's like, is Brandon Bean the worst GM? No, he's actually been a very good GM for the Buffalo Bills. Yes, there have been draft misses. There's things you can point to, but that's any organization, that's any team. You have to say, is there a better candidate out there than him? Can we insert that role? Can we have those two? Can we have a president of football operations and a general manager kind of working together cohesively? Or is that too many cooks in the kitchen? Yeah. Like the John Harbaugh power structure with the Giants right now is kind of fascinating. That's why that deal took a while to come together. And the weird thing too is, honestly, like if you wanted to make a case, this might have been Sean McDermott's best season as a head coach in the last couple of years by getting this team to overperform maybe a little bit. I think the one decision in that last football game that cost McDermott was being aggressive right before halftime. So the Broncos had just scored a touchdown. There's not a lot of time on the clock. And Josh Allen fumbles. You can't put it on Sean McDermott that Josh Allen was kind of careless with the football while he's running. It was Nick Bonito who forced that fumble. And he was like, I noticed that Josh Allen, when he runs, he doesn't secure the football a lot. He's like, we watched that on film. So you could say that's something that hasn't been corrected with Josh Allen via coaching. Also, if you have Josh Allen, of course you're going to be fucking aggressive because you have Josh Allen. If Andy Reid and the Chiefs are in that situation, you bet your sweet ass they're trying to get downfield quickly to get 3 points themselves. If that's Sean McVay, they're probably doing the same thing. So I don't really blame him. But hindsight, you go, just kneel it down. You get the ball coming out of halftime. But dude, like those are the crazy decisions.
And that 3-point swing lost them the game.
Lost them the game.
They literally lost. I mean, we were sitting here right before halftime, and I was like, if they lose this game by 3 points, it was like less than 20 seconds left, and they couldn't stop the clock. Like it just, that was very dumb.